At the family dinner, Dad slammed his fork on the table, his face red with rage. He looked me dead in the eyes and shouted, "You have 2 days to get your stuff out of this house. 2 days, and I don't want to ever see you again." For a moment, I froze. The whole dining room went silent, except for the sound of my heart hammering in my chest. My mother covered her mouth with her hands. My sister gasped, and my younger brother kept staring at me as if I had already been buried alive. My fork slipped from my hand and clattered against the plate. I wanted to speak, but the lump in my throat was too heavy. My father's words kept ringing in my head like a bell. 2 days. Get out. Don't ever come back. I had no idea that what he was about to do next would destroy everything I thought I knew about family and push me down a road of revenge so dark. Even I didn't know I was capable of it. But before I tell you what happened after that night, let me take you back to where it all began. And listen, if you're here right now, I promise this story will twist and turn in ways you won't see coming. So don't forget to like, watch, and subscribe, because this is just the beginning, and you don't want to miss what happens next. My name is Daniel Carter. I was 25 years old when this story took place. I grew up in a house where appearances mattered more than feelings. My father, Richard Carter, was a strict man who always believed in control. My mother, Grace, was softer, the kind of woman who'd sneak me an extra slice of cake when Dad wasn't looking. Then there were my siblings, my older sister, Rebecca, the golden child who could do no wrong, and my younger brother, Michael, the quiet genius who spent most of his time buried in books. And then there was me, the middle one, the one who was never good enough. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, my father always found a reason to humiliate me. Growing up, I thought it was normal. Parents yelled, right? Parents push you to be better. But the older I got, the clearer it became, this wasn't discipline. This was something else. Something darker. I remember one night, I was 16, when my dad came home drunk. He found out I had failed a math test. Instead of talking to me, he smashed my report card against my face and shouted, "You'll never amount to anything. You're a waste of space." I ran into my room that night, locked the door, and cried into my pillow until sunrise. But I promised myself something. I'd prove him wrong. By the time I was 25, I was working 2 jobs, saving every dollar, dreaming of starting my own small business. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. And deep down, I believed my father would one day see me for who I really was. But all that came crashing down the night of that family dinner. It was supposed to be a simple evening. Mom had cooked roast chicken and mashed potatoes. Rebecca was talking about her new promotion at work. And Dad was in one of his moods, sipping whiskey like water. Everything seemed fine until he turned the conversation toward me. "Daniel," he said, his voice sharp, "what exactly have you been doing with your life? Still chasing useless dreams? Still wasting your time?" I tried to keep calm. I told him about the business plan I was working on, how I was saving up, how I was moving forward slowly but surely. But he laughed. He laughed so loud it echoed through the room. "You? A businessman?" he scoffed. "Don't make me laugh. You can't even keep a steady job without running back here like a lost child. You're an embarrassment to this family." I clenched my fists under the table. My chest burned, but I held it in. For years I had swallowed his insults, telling myself it wasn't worth the fight. But then he leaned closer, his eyes cold. "You got 2 days to get your stuff out of this house," he said. 2 days. I don't want to look at your pathetic face again. The room spun. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Mom's trembling, Rebecca's smug satisfaction, Michael's confused sadness. My father wasn't bluffing. He meant it. And then, as if tearing my heart was enough, he stood up and slammed his glass on the table. Whiskey splashed everywhere, dripping onto the floor. "And don't think you're getting a single penny from me," he growled. "You want to be a man? Then start by surviving on your own." The chair screeched as I pushed back from the table. I was shaking, not from fear, but from rage. For years, I had kept quiet, but something inside me broke that night. I knew. This wasn't just about being kicked out. This was about being erased. As I turned to leave the dining room, my father's voice followed me. colder than ice. "Remember, Daniel," he said, "if I ever see you in this house after 2 days, I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your life." I stopped in my tracks. And that was when a thought first entered my mind. A thought so dangerous, so forbidden, it scared even me. Revenge. But I didn't know then that my path to revenge would lead me to blood, betrayal, and even prison. And the first step of it all started with what I found waiting for me in my bedroom that same night. I walked up the stairs with my chest still pounding, my father's words echoing in my head. 2 days. 2 days to leave the only place I had ever called home. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself was pressing me down. My hands trembled as I pushed open my bedroom door. And that's when I froze. On my bed, lying wide open like a cruel gift, was a brown envelope. My name was scribbled across it in my father's handwriting. My stomach tightened. I had never seen him leave anything in my room before. I stepped closer, my heart racing. My hand shook as I picked it up and pulled out the contents. Inside were printed documents, bank statements, job records, and my birth certificate. But something was wrong. I scanned the papers, my eyes widening with every line. My father had emptied out the joint savings account my mother had quietly opened for me when I turned 18. 10 years of money I had worked for, saved for my jobs, carefully stacked away for the business I was building. Gone. Every cent. He had signed my name on withdrawal slips. He had forged my signature. My knees nearly buckled. Rage shot through me like lightning. My father hadn't just kicked me out. He had robbed me, stolen my future before I could even touch it. I dropped the papers on the floor and clutched my head. I could hear Rebecca's laughter downstairs, faint but sharp, as though she knew, as though this had been planned. Tears burned in my eyes, but they weren't from weakness. They were from something darker, the kind of tears that come before a storm. I didn't know whether to scream or smash something, but before I could act, I heard a knock at my door. It was my mother. She stepped in, her eyes red from crying. She looked at the papers on the floor and froze. She didn't say a word, just bent down, picked them up, and pressed them against her chest. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice breaking, "you weren't supposed to see this yet." My jaw clenched. "What do you mean, yet?" She bit her lip, her body trembling. "Your father, he said it's for the best, that you're not capable of handling money, that he'll decide when you're ready to be trusted with it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, that's my money, my life. He's not protecting me, he's destroying me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I know, Daniel. I know. But if you fight him, he'll do worse. You don't understand the things your father is capable of." Her words cut deep, but instead of calming me, they only fanned a fire in my chest. What could be worse than this? He had taken everything from me. My home, my savings, my dignity. I took a step closer to her. "Then maybe it's time he learns what I'm capable of." Her face paled. She reached for me, but I pulled away. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with anger, betrayal, and one burning thought. He had taken the first strike. Now it was my turn. But just as my mind was forming its plan, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message appeared on the screen from an unknown number. "Daniel, I know what your father did. Meet me tomorrow night at the old train station if you want the truth. Come alone." My breath caught. My hand shook as I reread the message again and again. Who could this be? How did they know? And what truth were they talking about? One thing was certain. My father wasn't just cruel. He was hiding something. Something big. I had no idea that meeting the sender of that message would be the spark that set the whole fire blazing, leading to blood, betrayal, and the darkest revenge I'd ever imagined. The old train station was the kind of place where secrets seemed to belong. Rusted tracks stretched into the night, swallowed by darkness. The air smelled of damp metal and dust, and the only sound was the occasional whistle of wind slipping through broken windows. I checked my phone again. The message glowed on the screen like a warning. "Meet me tomorrow night at the old train station if you want the truth. Come alone." It was 11:47 p.m. My palms were sweaty, my chest tight. Every instinct told me this could be a trap, but the part of me that burned for answers, that burned for revenge, refused to back down. Then, from the shadows near the platform, a figure stepped out. A man in a dark hoodie, his face half hidden. "Daniel Carter?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded, my guard up. "Who are you?" He looked around before pulling the hood down. My jaw dropped. It was Marcus, my father's former business partner, a man I hadn't seen in years. "Marcus." I whispered, "What the hell are you doing here?" His eyes were tired, bloodshot. He lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating a face worn with regret. "Your father ruined me, Daniel, just like he's about to ruin you." My pulse quickened. "What are you talking about?" Marcus blew out smoke, his hands shaking. "Richard Carter isn't just controlling. He's dangerous. The money he stole from you, it's gone. But not because he's saving it. He's using it." I clenched my fists. Using it for what? Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. "To cover up his crimes. Fraud, embezzlement, and worse." The world tilted. My father, my own father, was a criminal? Marcus pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to me. "This is just a glimpse. Proof of wire transfers, fake accounts, hush money. He's been laundering money for years, Daniel. And anyone who gets in his way disappears." I stared at the paper, my throat dry. My father wasn't just strict. He wasn't just cruel. He was corrupt. But before I could ask more, headlights suddenly cut through the darkness. A black SUV pulled up fast, its tires screeching against the gravel. My heart leapt. "Damn it," Marcus hissed, tossing his cigarette aside. They followed me. The doors of the SUV flew open, and 3 men in black suits jumped out, moving fast, their footsteps heavy against the cracked pavement. "Run," Marcus shouted. But before I could even turn, one of the men pulled out a gun. The first shot rang out, shattering the silence of the night. I ducked behind a rusted bench, my heart slamming against my ribs. Marcus wasn't so lucky. I heard him grunt, followed by the sickening thud of his body hitting the ground. I wanted to scream, but fear locked my throat. The men were closing in, scanning the shadows, their guns raised. My father's face flashed in my mind, his cold eyes at the dinner table, his voice spitting venom. 2 days. Get out. And then it hit me. This wasn't just about being kicked out. He wanted me gone because I was too close to the truth. Now Marcus was dead, and I was next. I took a deep breath, clutching the paper Marcus had given me. If I survived this night, I knew one thing for certain. My revenge wasn't just personal anymore. It was war. And the first move in that war would be made with blood. The sound of boots scraping gravel came closer. My lungs felt like they were caving in as I pressed my body tighter against the rusted bench. The paper Marcus had given me was crumpled in my hand, damp from sweat, but I refused to let it go. It was my only weapon, the only proof of what my father really was. "Spread out," one of the men barked, his voice sharp. "He's here." Their shadows stretched across the platform, tall and menacing under the flickering streetlight. I could hear the click of a gun being reloaded. My heartbeat thudded, so loud I was sure they could hear it. I had 2 choices: stay hidden and get dragged out, or run and pray my legs were faster than their bullets. My body chose for me. I bolted. The night exploded with noise. Shouts. Footsteps. A gunshot cracked the air, the bullet sparking against the metal pole inches from my head. I ducked, swerving hard, my shoes slipping on the gravel as I sprinted toward the broken fence at the far end of the station. "Don't let him get away." I threw myself through the gap in the fence, the jagged wires tearing into my arm. Pain shot through me, but I didn't stop. I landed on the other side, rolling hard onto the dirt, and scrambled to my feet. Behind me, the men were closing in. I ran through the overgrown weeds, my chest burning, every breath like fire. The night blurred around me, trees, broken street signs, a half-lit road. Another shot rang out. This time, I felt the bullet graze past my ear, close enough to make my skin sting. I knew I couldn't outrun them forever. I needed cover. Up ahead, I spotted an old drainage tunnel, half hidden behind a pile of rocks. Without thinking, I dove into it, the stench of mold and rot filling my nose. I crouched low, holding my breath, every muscle screaming. The men's footsteps pounded past, their voices fading into the distance. I stayed frozen in that tunnel for what felt like hours, my whole body trembling. When silence finally returned, I let out a shaky breath. My hands were still clenched around the paper Marcus had given me. I unfolded it, desperate for light, and used my phone screen glow to read. There was names, accounts, transactions, all tied back to my father. But what caught my eye most was a single line scribbled at the bottom. If anything happens to me, trust no one, not even your family. My blood ran cold, not even my family. I thought of my mother, her trembling voice, her tears. Could she be a part of this? Rebecca's smug smile at dinner. Did she know more than she let on? Michael's silence. Was he hiding something? The walls of my world were crumbling faster than I could hold them up. But before I could process it, my phone buzzed again. Another message. Same unknown number. He knows you have the papers. Leave the city tonight, or you won't live to see tomorrow. My throat tightened. Whoever was sending these messages wasn't just a stranger. They were close, watching me, maybe even one of them. For the first time in my life, I realized my father wasn't just a cruel man. He was a predator. And I wasn't just his son anymore, I was his target. And as I sat in that tunnel, with the smell of blood and smoke still clinging to my clothes, a terrifying thought settled in my mind. The only way to survive was to strike first. I crawled out of the tunnel, my fists tight around the papers, my eyes burning with a new kind of fire. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about survival. But the moment I stepped onto the road, headlights flared in my face. A car screeched to a stop inches from me. The driver's door swung open, and the person who stepped out made my knees nearly buckle. Rebecca. She stepped out of the driver's seat, like she had been expecting me. Her heels clicked against the asphalt as she walked toward me, calm, collected, not a trace of fear in her face. "Daniel," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. "Get in the car. Now." I staggered back, shaking my head. "What are you doing here?" Her eyes narrowed. "If you want to live, you'll stop asking questions and get inside." Every instinct screamed not to trust her. But the sound of engines in the distance told me the men from the SUV weren't far behind. My choices were thin. So against every ounce of better judgment, I slid into the passenger seat. Rebecca got behind the wheel, slammed the door, and floored it. The car roared down the cracked road, swallowing miles in seconds. My chest heaved as I clutched the papers tighter in my hand. Finally, I turned to her. "Did you know? About Dad? About what he's been doing?" Her jaw tightened. Of course I knew. My stomach dropped. She glanced at me, her eyes cold. "You think you're the first person he's destroyed? Daniel, our father isn't just cruel. He's dangerous. He has friends in the police, in the courts. He owns people. He owns the city." I swallowed hard. "And you've been helping him?" Rebecca slammed the brakes, the tires screeching as the car spun to stop under a flickering streetlight. She turned to me, her face twisted with anger and something darker. "No," she hissed. "I've been waiting for the right moment. And now you just gave me exactly what I need." Before I could react, she lunged for the papers in my hands. We struggled, the car rocking as I fought to hold on. "Give it to me, Daniel," she shouted. "You don't understand. With this, I can finally take him down." Her voice shook with desperation, but I couldn't tell if it was the truth or another trap. I shoved her back, my breath ragged. "Why should I trust you?" I snapped. "You've spent your whole life on his side." Tears welled in her eyes, but her grip didn't loosen. "Because I hate him as much as you do." The air went still. Her words cut deep. Pulling it apart of me, I didn't want to believe. But before I could decide, headlights flared again in the rearview mirror. The SUV. They had found us. Rebecca's face paled. "They're coming." She threw the car into gear, the tires screaming as we sped off again. Bullets shattered the rear window. glass raining over us. I ducked low, clutching the papers to my chest as Rebecca swerved through the dark roads like her life depended on it. "Hold on," she shouted. The chase felt endless. Screeching tires, gunshots echoing, the smell of burnt rubber filling the car. My pulse was a drum in my ears. Then, out of nowhere, Rebecca yanked the wheel and cut down a narrow dirt path. The SUV followed, its headlights bouncing like wild eyes in the dark. "We can't outrun them," Rebecca gasped. "There's only one way to end this." Her words terrified me. "What are you talking about?" She glanced at me, her eyes blazing. "If we don't stop them tonight, Daniel, they'll keep coming. Dad will keep coming. And neither of us will survive." Before I could respond, she pressed harder on the gas. The car rocketed forward, the trees closing in around us. The SUV was still there, gaining ground. Rebecca's voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried more weight than a scream. "Are you ready to kill him, Daniel? Are you ready to kill our father?" The words hit me like a blade. My stomach twisted, my chest heavy. Murder. Revenge had always been in the back of my mind, but hearing it out loud made it real. I opened my mouth to answer, but just then, the dirt road ended abruptly at a cliff's edge. Rebecca's hands tightened on the wheel. The SUV was second behind us, and with one last desperate glance at me, she made her choice. The car flew. The world spun. Metal screamed. My body slammed against the seatbelt as the car flew off the cliff, suspended in a moment that felt like forever. The headlights lit up the void ahead before gravity yanked us down. I thought it was over, but Rebecca jerked the wheel at the last second, sending the car crashing sideways into the thick branches of a giant oak jutting from a cliffside. The impact rattled my bones, the windshield shattered, and we came to a violent stop halfway down the slope. For a few seconds, there was only silence, just the groan of twisted metal and the hiss of the engine. Then Rebecca coughed, blood on her lips, and looked at me. "We don't have much time," she whispered. Above us, the SUV screeched to a halt at the cliff's edge. Doors slammed. Shadows peered down at us with guns in hand. My heart raced. "We're trapped," I hissed. "No," Rebecca croaked, forcing a weak smile. "This is where he falls." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small flash drive, pressing it into my bloody palm. "The papers are nothing. This is everything. Every account. Every crime. This will bury him." Tears burned my eyes. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because," she said, her voice fading, "I didn't trust you until tonight." Before I could respond, gunfire erupted from above. Bullets ripped through the branches, sparks flying. I ducked, pulling Rebecca down with me, but she was fading fast. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. "Go," she whispered. "End it." I clenched the flash drive in my fist, my body shaking. I wanted to stay, to drag her out, but her hand slipped from mine. Her eyes closed, and something inside me snapped. I crawled out of the wreckage, my body aching, and clawed my way up the slope. The men were waiting at the top, but rage made me reckless. I charged one, slamming his head against the SUV door. Another swung his gun, but I twisted it free and fired. The sound of the shot echoed across the night. One down, two down. My hands were soaked in blood, my breath wild. By the time the smoke cleared, I was the only one standing. And then he appeared. My father. He stepped out of the SUV, calm, collected, as if he'd expected this. His gray suit gleamed under the moonlight, his eyes colder than ever. "Impressive," he said, almost proud. "Looks like my son finally grew a spine." I raised the gun, my hands trembling. "You ruined me. You ruined everything." He smirked. "No, Daniel. I made you. Every scar, every failure, every tear. You're standing here because of me. You want to kill me? Go ahead. But remember this. If you pull that trigger, you'll become me." The weight of his words crushed me. My finger hovered over the trigger, my chest pounding. For years, I had dreamed of this moment. But now, standing face to face with a monster who had destroyed my life, I realized revenge was poison. I lowered the gun. I won't be you, I whispered. His smirk widened. Then you'll always be nothing. But I wasn't finished. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and held it up. His eyes darkened for the first time. You lose, Dad, I said. The world's going to see who you really are. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his face. Real fear. I turned my back on him, walked toward the edge of the cliff, and dropped the gun. The sun was rising in the distance, painting the sky in fire. Behind me, I heard him shout my name. But I didn't stop. The next weeks were chaos, police raids, courtrooms, headlines screaming Richard Carter exposed. My father was dragged to mud, his empire crumbling piece by piece. For the first time, justice wasn't a dream, but victory came with a cost. Rebecca never woke up from that night. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, bloody, broken, yet smiling because she believed in me at the end. Did I win? Maybe. Did I get my revenge? Yes. But the truth is, revenge doesn't heal you. It only leaves you standing in the ashes of everything you once loved. And as I stood over Rebecca's grave months later, the flash drive finally destroyed, I whispered the only words I could. We beat him, sis, but I'd give anything to have you back. The wind carried my voice away, and in that moment I knew this story wasn't about revenge. It was about survival. And survival always comes with scars.